Hey there guys, and welcome back. On this week's show, we're adding a work light to the bandsaw. Well, as much as I love my Rikon 10-326 bandsaw, it's kind of lacking in the work light department. I mean, with their drill press, it has a built-in work light, but with the bandsaw, for some reason, they neglected that. So I thought that on today's show, I would make and install a work light, and hopefully it's going to be functional and usable. But what we're going to do first is we're going to head over to the bandsaw, and we need to take a few measurements. Well, the measurements that we need to take are, with the door open, we will measure from the edge of this lip here to the back of the saw. That will give us our width of our light fixture, and that is 4 inches. And we will measure from our back post here to just maybe an inch or so outside of our blade guard right here. And it looks like it's going to be 11.5. So I think I'm going to make it 11. So in total, 4 inches wide by 11 inches long. So I will be making the frame for this work light out of scrap 1/2 inch plywood. And in this case, I need to take these pieces over to the table saw. I'm going to rip them to 1.5 inches wide, and then I will miter each edge to end up making a box that will be our final dimensions, outside dimensions of 4 by 11. And there are the pieces that will make up the box of our light fixture. We now need to make a rabbet in the bottom edge of all of these pieces, the bottom inside edge. It needs to accommodate a 1/4 inch thick MDF or hardboard. So what we need to do is I'm going to take it over to the router table, and using a straight up cut bit, I'm going to cut the rabbet in the bottom edge of all of our pieces. Well, I've clamped this together temporarily, and the reason for that is I will now take an inside edge to inside edge measurement all the way around so that we can get the dimensions of our 1/4 inch hardboard backboard. And once I get those dimensions, I'll cut that piece and dry fit it in place. And we can dry fit our backboard into our frame. Now at this point, we want to flip this over, and we will trace inside all the way around the perimeter of our light box here. And then we can take our base out. Now, what those lines represent is our working area. And that is when we get into the next step. Now what I've done is I've gone on Amazon and I've ordered myself a set of these, and these are Govee white LED strip lights. And now what I'm going to do is inside my working area here that I've just traced out, I am going to place as many of these white LEDs on here as I can. I'll get them all placed on, and once I have them placed, I'm going to have to do some soldering because I'm going to be cutting them. I don't like using those plug-in joiner strips, so I solder mine. Once I get it all soldered and all of the lights placed on this board, I will show you what we've ended up with. Well, with all my LED strips mounted to my backboard, it's now time for me to solder the leads on each end to make this all in series. Now, one thing to keep in mind, while you're soldering, make sure that you're putting your 12-volt input to a 12-volt input and your negative or your return to your return. In one of these cases, I reversed the strip, so you just need to pay attention. Don't just blindly solder the bottom ones to the bottom ones and the top ones to the top ones. So it would be an excruciatingly boring video to see me solder all of this. It's going to take some time. I'm going to get them all soldered up and I'll see you when I'm done. And with all the soldering done, we'll just test to make sure all the strips still work. Yeah, I'd say they work. Warning, do not look directly into the LED strip. All right, on to the next step. So what I have done is roughly a 1/4 inch down from the top. On each one of these inside pieces, I've run a saw width dado right across here, about a 1/4 inch deep. And then I've cut a piece of plexiglass, just 1/16 inch plexiglass, and that will just slide into here. Obviously, when we put it in, we'll take off the protective paper, but then this will keep our lights from the dust going up inside of our fixture. Now, once our soldered board goes up inside, we can see here that we're going to have a bit of an issue with this cord. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark a recess down in the side here of one of these shorter boards. I'm going to cut it out with a scroll saw, just a simple little half circle, and that will allow our cable to escape from our light fixture. And with that notch cut, we'll just do a dry fit assembly just to make sure everything fits together properly. Okay, and with that dry fit done, I'm pretty happy with the way that goes together. At this point now, we can remove the protective coating off of our plexi, and we're going to glue the entire thing together, including gluing in our base light assembly at the bottom. Well, while we're waiting for this to dry up, there's one more thing we can do. I have these powerful rare earth magnet bars. You've seen me use these on the show before, and we're going to mix up some 5-minute epoxy, and we're going to place one right here and as well right here. We'll just glue them in place and let them set up, and they can cure while the rest of it is drying. And now with our light fixture all dried up, we've given it a light sanding all the way around. And now it's as simple as attaching it with the magnets to the underside of our bandsaw. So once we get that mounted like that, we just need to run the cables, attach the switch here to the bandsaw, and plug it in and test it. And now it's just a matter of testing them. And at this point, we'll just do a comparison of the work area here. This obviously is without the lights, and we'll just turn on the lights. And you can see what a big difference that makes. I think this is really going to come in handy. And there you have it. A work light on the Rikon 10-326 bandsaw. Guys, this project is dead simple. It is a box with a plexiglass top and some store-bought LED strips. Now, I've used these strips before in other projects. This is the same company that manufactures the LEDs that I used in my glass block stand. If you remember, we lit that up with LEDs the same way we lit this up. And it's a great little unit. Now, I know it's not serviceable at this point because everything is glued together, but if you want to make yours serviceable, in case something should go wrong and you want to get in there and check a solder joint or whatever, then you know what? Just don't glue the bottom in where the LEDs are. You can drill through the sides with some 1/8 dowels, just a couple pins to hold it in place, and if need be, you can pull those pins out and access the interior at a later time. For me, I didn't want this to be a permanent mount. At some point, I considered actually drilling it and tapping it and screwing it right into the underbelly of that upper compartment. But the more I thought about it, the more I really didn't want to drill into that cabinet. The other thing too is if this doesn't suit my needs at the bandsaw after a few years, because it's a magnetic based light, I can just pull it out of there and go and use it somewhere else. It's not permanent here on the bandsaw. The one thing I might neaten up a little later is the cables in the back. Now, the cables on this are much longer because they're not meant for this short kind of installation, but there's a receptacle right here on the back of the main post of the bandsaw, so why not utilize it for the work light? Either way, I might do something a little different with those cables. I like the position of the remote right now, and I don't know, we'll see how it goes. As I use it, I'll get a better idea of how I like it and, if there's anything I'd change. But for now, I think it's pretty awesome, and it gives a whole new light to your work below. Guys, if you're wondering, these sets are dimmable, so if that bright light is a little too much for you, or you need a little less light, tone it down. Tone it down a little bit. What you saw here was those lights on high, so you have quite a bit of adjustability. Either way, it's a great project, extremely useful in my shop, and I'm glad I finally got around to doing it. If you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Click the bell and then you won't miss the notifications of future episodes of the show. It's been a lot of fun today, guys. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to stop by the channel and tune into today's episode. I hope that you've enjoyed today's content, but more importantly, I hope that you're going to join me again next week when I bring you yet another Alternative Tuesday.